We can't play with God and play with Christ and play with Muhammad and play with the Quran and play with the Bible and quote but never live what you preach. See, I want to talk to you about this Christ that we all talk about. But if you really knew him, you wouldn't break so easily when Satan comes knocking at your door. You wouldn't grow your business to a certain level and the enemy comes and gives you an offer that you can't refuse, so you sell off years of people's sacrifice for money. So our banks close and our great businesses, we lose them. But we still have jet, we still have ebony, but we don't have the building that Mr. Johnson sacrificed so much to give us something in downtown Chicago that we would be proud of, but it's gone now. Essence magazine, gone now. BET, gone now. Independence Bank in Chicago, gone now. Fat Farm, gone now. Baby Fat, gone now. Everything we got that would make us proud as a people, when you get it to a certain height, here comes Satan. I don't give a damn how he looked. I'm saying it's Satan coming after you. You ought to know that Satan is going to try us all. You ought to know that. The Jesus that I know, Satan took him up on a mountain, they tell me. Satan always know what your father promised you that you haven't got yet. And Satan comes in between the promise and its fulfillment and then says, I got that. Just bow down to me and don't worry. Ain't nobody gonna bother you. I got this. So they took Jesus up on the mountain. They thought he was just one of them Palestinian punks. And when they got him up on the mountain, Satan said, hey, look at all of that. See, your father told you was going to have a kingdom. It ain't come yet. But look at all of that. That's mine. He said, if you bow down to me, all of this can be yours. And Jesus had the strength to say, get thee behind me, Satan. In the 80s, they were testing me. Every brilliant one of their correspondents, they would bring me on their television shows and try to break the minister down. And the minister broke them down. They had to leave. Miss Barbara Walters came to my home in Chicago. She had a book this thick. She said, "Minister, I'm going to ask you questions for an hour and a half." She's telling me how much time, in my house. So she said, "Now, if, of course, you need a break because you're perspiring, I'll stop and give you a chance to get yourself together." I mean, what arrogance, And every question she asked me, God give me the answer just that quick, Finally, she was sweating. And she needed a little break, Go ahead, Miss Walters, and take a little break. Sam Donaldson, she called him on the telephone from my office. "Sam, every question I asked him, Sam, he didn't duck any of those questions." Why should I? If I know the truth. When the enemy can't make you afraid, then he gets terrified. And to all the black men that's in the house, there's a plan afoot to feminize you. Dress you up in little sissy clothes. They love to bend you, black man.
Teach us.
And it seems like you don't mind bending. You don't have the will to resist.
Teach us.
The Bible says, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. But if you don't resist him, he'll stand there and overcome you. When are you going to wake up, black man, that there's power today for you? The reason the Jews never did like Jesus, not the Jesus the prophet, but Jesus the Messiah. See, Jesus the prophet foretold Jesus the Messiah. Oh, brother and sister. In the Quran, talks about the Messiah. I don't have my Quran with me, but I have scholars here that can help me out if I miss a word. But the Quran talks about Jesus the Messiah. It says he will open the eyes of the blind by Allah's permission. See, he don't have the power on his own to do it, but with God's permission, he'll open the eyes of the blind. He'll make the deaf hear and the dumb speak. By God's permission, he will even raise the dead to life by Allah's permission. And he will take clay and form it into a bird and breathe into it, and it will become a bird by God's permission. The Messiah is not a prophet. The Messiah is really the end of prophets. The Messiah is not a prophet. The Messiah is God's presence in a human being. We're talking about that he that you got to get in you. Jesus the Messiah. It says God, listen to this, not will reveal to him the book. No. It says God is going to teach him the book and the wisdom, the Torah and the gospel. He's going to know it all. It's one thing to reveal something to you. That don't mean you understand what was revealed. But when God becomes the teacher and he is the best knower of those who know, and when God chooses to teach you, he explains the things that confounded the prophets. And that's why Muhammad in the Quran is called a light-giving sun. Not moonlight. Prophets are moonlight, meaning the moon reflects the light of the sun while the earth is in its shadow. But when God comes, a prophet's light is nothing. Try and see something at night, even with a full moon. All the features of it, you can't quite make it out, but you can see the form of it. You can see some things about it, but when the sun comes up in the morning, everything is made clear. That's what the Messiah does with just a word out of his mouth. He makes things that you thought you understood clear. Jesus, the prophet, was a foreteller. He foreshadowed the Messiah. Who were his enemies? He had many enemies. He was hated without a cause. How could he be the Son of God, man? And God put him through all of that? And yet Jesus never complained. Oh, boy, this is some kind of human. Let me stop a minute and go back and find the father of the righteous. He's called Abraham. Y'all all right? I am too. Look here. Here's what the Quran says. I'm talking now to my brother Raz Baraka and to all of us in leadership. Allah says in the Quran, he tried Abraham with certain commands. And then the scripture says, and when Abraham had fulfilled them, God said, surely I will make you a leader of men. You don't get to be a leader from God until you've been thoroughly tried. Did you hear what I'm saying to you? Now, I want you to think of this as a trial. Poor Abraham, his wife Sarah couldn't bear no children, you know. Naturally, a man wants a man. He wants a boy child to succeed him. And then all of a sudden, the handmaiden, that's interesting. She gave Abraham a child. Now, those of you who have handmaidens, but your name ain't Abraham. Excuse me. But I'm thinking of people that judge Abraham. Look at that man. He's supposed to be a righteous prophet. And he went into Sarah's handmaiden, a young woman. She gave him a son. The next scene comes up. Hagar is running in the wilderness with her child. What happened, Abe? What caused you to put her out in the wilderness? You know, sometimes you mess up a little bit and your wife gets so angry with you. And the woman was in the house as a handmaiden of Sarah. Get out! Slept with my husband. But Ishmael was on the scene. He got what he was looking for. And Hagar was running in the wilderness with her child. And she was looking to the hills. Whence cometh my help? Like these women in here tonight with no good men making you pregnant and running. They loved you because your form was so attractive. And you loved to show it, you know. And that ends up hurting you because you're so fine. You are so fine. And you know, there are parts of your body that the Holy Quran calls your adornments. That's a very beautiful way God describes your breasts. Adornments. I like that, you know. And you know, there's something about your hips and your buttocks, adornments. They make people look at you. And you busy looking at yourself. I see you when you dress, you look over your shoulder. And you want to make sure you're all right back there. Because men, you see, there's a dog nature in man. Oh, you didn't hear me. See, we got to get to the he that's in me that make me a God, because without him, I become a dog. When I see a woman displaying her adornments, no, he said, stay right there. I said, no. Excuse me, Father, but I didn't have no script. But I guess you want me to stay on this line to get these men right. And we can't get a man right until you get a woman right. Because where there are no decent women, there are no decent men, for it's the woman that's the mother of civilization.
Teach us. Teach us.
Yes, sir.
Teach, sir. Teach, sir. Teach. Teach. Teach.
The breast is what we drew from in our formative years, our baby years. Some of you think that faith can be learned in church. Faith can be learned in the mosque. No. Faith is the gift of God. And there's no creature born, no male or female born without the seed, the germ of faith that if it is properly fed, you gotta hear what your brother's being told to tell you. Faith is the substance of things hoped for.
That's right.
The evidence of things not seen. So when the baby comes forth from the womb, it's washed and swaddled and salted and cleansed and given to the mother, and she puts it on her breast. One of those adornments. And the baby, you don't have to tell it how to suck. It starts pulling. First time it pulls, ain't nothing there. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. And the baby keeps pulling and pulling. And all of a sudden, that faith is rewarded with the substance that was hoped for. The problem with us, we had faith as a baby when we were put on our mother's breast. But this whole universe is the mammary gland of God. And if you know how to pull on what God has put around you, the universe will never deny you what it is you hope for. So, my dear sisters, have you seen these movies about Jesus? Have you seen the women that are around Jesus? Have you ever seen one of them with a mini dress? Have you ever seen the women around Jesus with a low-cut dress, bearing her ornaments, her adornments? Wow, I've been at it for an hour already. Yeah, let me take a drink here. And I better wrap this up. The women around Jesus never displayed their adornments. They displayed the beauty of a woman of God, gracious and kind and wise, like my mother. She nurtured me. My father, I never knew him. He put the seed there, and he never bought me as much as shoelaces. My mother did it all. But I'm grateful for my father, because he evidently was a good man, because he had a good seed, but he just didn't grow up into the goodness of his life germ. And most of you wonderful brothers, you have a good seed, because you are the people of God. But now we must become as good as the life germ that brings greatness into the world. We come from between the thighs of a woman. When a woman is giving birth, her knees are wide open, stretched to push life out. And it's something about nature, you always want to return to that from which you came. Oh, Lord. Reverend. But I'm not trying to be vulgar. I'm looking at nature. And we are products of nature. But nature under control brings good results. But nature uncontrolled, out of control, out of divine order, brings chaos.
That's right.
So what we're doing as men and women, obeying nature, but not wanting responsibility. I have a biological need, so I'm like a dog. Not me, I mean. I'm talking about you. We all have that same urge. And that's why human beings multiply. Because we have a natural yearning for the opposite of ourselves. But when it's out of control, and you just want a woman to take pleasure from her, and never take responsibility for what that pleasure might bring. And sisters, you are sacred women. You are the woman of God, not the woman of man. You shouldn't be easy for a man to get to. Because the sacredness of your womb and the vaginal tract that leads to the sacred chamber, which is the workshop of God, that's where Jesus came from. That's where Moses and Abraham came from. That's where Hannibal came from. That's where Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines and Christophe came from. That's where the giants come from. So you don't let just anybody have access to your sacredness. You have the right to protect and preserve the integrity of your being and make a man earn his place there. Now, brothers, now, dear brothers, see, when the Spirit of God is in you, you won't take advantage of a woman. When the Spirit of God is in us, we see the greatness of a woman. The greatness of a woman. She's God's first act of creation after self-creating. He was not begotten. So if he's not begotten, he begot himself. It's a self-creation of the eternal creator. And then he studied himself and saw you there and brought you out as the second self of God. So the Quran says, he created you from a single essence and created your mate of the same. And from these two, he spread many men and women. You're marvelous, my dear sisters. And I bow to the majesty of women as I bow to the majesty of my mother. She made me who I am, even though she tried to abort me 3 times. It's so easy for us to feel that pregnancy disadvantages us. And it's like the thief and the robber who goes to rob and somebody saw their face and they feel disadvantaged, so I have to kill the person that saw my face so that I won't be caught. And So we do that. We get pregnant and we feel that it's an interruption to our lives and it's an interruption to our career. And when it's a preacher, it's an interruption for sure. When your wife is sitting there and you're having an affair with one of the women of the congregation. Oh, listen, no, am I running you out?
Here, Doc.
See, we are natural men, but women are our trial. The woman is the woman of God. You stand up and preach with the Spirit of God, a woman wants to comfort you. That's her nature. She's born as a consoler of the man. Because it's the man's job to struggle against the forces in nature, to overcome them for his woman, for his family, for his future. And when you're a struggler like that, a woman's duty is to console and comfort you and rub your head and run the bath water for you and cook a meal for you. So don't you tell me, pretty woman. Prettiness can't give health and well-being to your family.
Prettiness can't give help.
We know you're pretty. But when a man wakes up and he want to go out and work, you got to send him out right.
Talk about that. Stay right there.
That's your BMW, baby. Your black man working. You got to send him out right, and he'll bring it back to you.
Teach us. Teach us. Teach us.
I'll close that point with this. Civilization is never measured by a man. The degree of civilization in any society is measured by the woman. Any society. And when you got a woman that's free for all, that will undress herself for men to see her adornments and yearn for her and lust for her, then she's spinning her web. Gotcha. And before long, she'll drop you. A man got a woman working for him. You home looking at the news or the general hospital where you'll be soon. And she's out working. You using her car, she got two. And what is she getting out of you?
Think about it. Think about it.
Do you think that sex can hold a woman? A non-working man, unintelligent? And you know she gonna rise up against you, then you hit her, knock her down,